on to the next talk on ethical issues on the way to self sufficiency, improving organ donation in India. May I invite the speaker, Professor Vivek Kurte? I now invite the chairpersons for this talk, Dr. Ilangovan Veerappan and Dr. Sanjay Nagral. Over to the chairpersons.
Thank you very much. I also welcome my co-chairperson, Elangovan. And of course, Vivek does not need any introduction to this audience. However, I must say that in addition to his stellar role as a nephrologist and in the ISOT, Vivek has been engaging with several ethical challenges in the progress of transplantation in India in the last few years. And he has been associated both with the TTS as the co-chair of their ethics committee, and he has been a colleague with me in the DICG. And therefore, his topic for today, which is rather a long title, but improving organ donation in India, everybody will agree. Way to self-sufficiency, relatively, again, people will agree. But he is going to talk to us on what are the ethical issues, and that's what's going to make the talk interesting. So Vivek, please.
Thank you, Dr. Nagral, for the kind introduction. So I will be discussing the ethical issues on the way to self-sufficiency, improving organ donation in India. It is my pleasure to work as a co-chair of TTS Ethics Committee with Peter Stock as the chairperson. We have world experts working in this committee. Beatriz Gill from Spain, Madam is here today in the online session. Elmi Muller from Cape Town, Riyad Fadil from Doha, Thibaut Wang from China, Dr. Rizvi from Karachi, Curie Ann from Korea. Because of shortage of time, I will not make all the list. So the ethics committee is working in different aspects like organ trafficking and transplant tourism, guidance for psychosocial evaluation of living organ donors, social media and transplantation, pros and cons, ethical issues in setting up transplant program in resource limited country, gender disparity in transplantation, uterine transplantation, organ donation by euthanasia, clinical trials in xenotransplantation and stem cell research, research in organ donation, ethical strategy for transplantation of refugee, immigrants, and equity. The Ethics Committee of ISOT is also working on these different aspects. Expansion of donor pool through bioethical perspective. What are the bioethical boundaries for upper age and donor age for the donor, especially in case of cadaver? Normative regulation and bioethical viewpoint of living donor care around the world. Opt-in and opt-out system, which is best. Viewpoints on directed disease donation. So the topic of ethics is very wide. So I will give focus on gender disparity, paired kidney exchange, COVID-19, especially the COVID-19 vaccine. Gender disparity in transplantation is very common. This is a universal problem, more common seen in developing world as compared to the developed world. Proportion of female as a living kidney donor shown in green color less than 50%, and dark red color indicate proportion of living kidney donors. This is 70% or above. For example, India, Asia. So basically, we can see the more female donors are more common in low middle income country and low income country as compared to the high income country. because of socio-cultural and economic factor. Gender distribution on waiting list. As per the UNOS data, Eurotransplant data, we can see gender disparity for the kidney, liver, heart and lung transplant. Women shown in red color and men shown in blue color. We can see this is a long-term data up to 2018. Then gender disparity at transplantation. UNOS data, Eurotransplant data and registry data. Over the last 20 years, we can see the gender disparity for the kidney, liver, heart and lung transplant. Around 55 to 75% of the recipients are men. So it is common to every organ, only proportion is different. Coming to India, as per data submitted by NOTO to the GODT ONT registry, around 62,000 transplants are performed in India. Majority are kidney and liver transplant. 85% living donor, 15% deceased donor. Heart, lung, and pancreas and small bowel transplant numbers are less, but they are increasing over the last 5 years. Deceased donation is limited and more active in South and West India. It is recently started in new states like West Bengal, and it is yet to be started in states like Assam, Guwahati. So we will make more efforts to expand deceased donation in the states where it is yet to be initiated. As per Indian data, the gender disparity is also present in each and every organ. In case of kidney transplant, woman is at triple disadvantage. So access to the medical care, chronic kidney disease, access to dialysis, access to the waiting list, and access to the kidney transplant. So woman is at triple disadvantage for getting kidney help. I will briefly discuss gender disparity data from our single center, largest public sector transplant hospital in India. This is a living donor kidney transplant data at our institute from 99 to 2020. The blue column indicate female to male donation. We can see from 99 to 2020, female to male donations are increasing, and top dark light red color indicate male to female donation. Male to female donation in 99, it is around 12 to 13%, and male to female donation is decreasing over the last 20 years. Recipient gender disparity for adult deceased donor kidney transplant. The blue color indicate male and red color indicate female. So gender disparity is also obvious in deceased donor kidney transplant. This is data from 99 to 2020 at our single center. Donor sex disparity in deceased donor kidney transplant. In case of deceased donor kidney, more male donate, probably because of comorbid conditions. They are more common in men, and they have more access to the medical care. So this is in contrast to the living donation. In living donation, female donors are common, and in deceased donation, male donors are common. What is impact of relationship in living donor kidney transplant? This is data from 99 to 2020 at our single center. Looking from the bottom, the blue bar indicate mother and orange bar indicate wife. So over the last 20 years, we can see that mother and wife contribute to almost 50% or more than 50% of the donors in all the relation. This is the green line which is showing the 50 percentage. Only percentage is variable, but contribution from mother and wife is increasing from 99 versus 2020. The looking from the top, the light blue color indicate donation from other than near related. It went 22% in 99 and it is just 2% in 2020. Why? Because of swab transplant, that is kidney exchange transplant. This is shown in the blue color and this brown color. This donation from other than near related donor, they are replaced by the kidney exchange donor at our single institute. So now in 2020, 10% of the living donors are from paired kidney exchange rather than other than near related donor in 99. What is impact of gender in pediatric kidney transplant? This is a recipient data over the 20 years. The blue column indicate male and red column indicate female. We can clearly see in case of pediatric transplant, the gender disparity is more worse as compared to the adult transplant because the parents do not come forward to donate organ for the female child. And again, they have limited access to the deceased donor program. And in practical, less than 15% of the transplants in India are from deceased donation. What is the donor relation in case of a female child? Majority of the donors, one is either mother and second is deceased donor. So other family member do not come forward to donate organ for a girl child. This is again because of socio-economic and cultural issues. So we cannot overcome the socio-cultural factors as a medical expert. So Gujarat state allocated additional points for female gender in deceased donor waiting list. So because of this, now since 1 or 2 years, more female are getting transplant in deceased donor program in our state. This is the visual abstract of our single center data of more than 5,000 transplants. So gender disparity is present for living compatible transplant, living incompatible transplant, paired kidney exchange, deceased donor transplant, and pediatric transplant. Donors, majority of the donors are women, majority of the recipients are male. This is common to India. This is a universal problem, but more common to India and Asia as compared to the high income country. What are the influencing factors from end stage disease to the waiting list? Underlying disease, immunology, pregnancy, comorbid burden, physician assessment, patient self-esteem, socio-economic factors. Factors influencing from waiting list to transplant, progression of underlying disease, prioritization, for example, male score, and most importantly, pregnancy associated sensitization. An influencing factor from transplantation to end stage disease, sex match, organ mass, recipient age, immunology, pregnancy, and adherence. So we should make efforts to overcome gender disparity with the help of capacity building, gender equity manual tool, gender and health expert directory, collaborative work, developing tools like conceptual framework, guidelines, training module, protocol for medical legal care, adaptive WHO tools, gender training in medical education, technical assistance like technical exchange, participation of women, engaging in advocacy and communication, and regional workshop. I will discuss the ethical issues in kidney exchange transplant, that is paired kidney exchange, also known as swab transplant in India. One issue is that Anonymous versus non-anonymous allocation. In Asia and India, all the centers allow the pairs to meet each other before transplant, during transplant, and after transplant. In our centers, we allow them to, in fact, exchange the medical reports all the time. This increases trust and transparency between the patient, transplant team, and administrative team. In high income country, the patient donor pairs are not allowed to meet each other. Then second issue is a simultaneous versus non-simultaneous surgery. Simultaneous surgery is a norm, is a principle for all the kidney exchange. In India, we have single center program. So more surgical team is required to carry out simultaneous surgery. So whether non-simultaneous surgery can be done in a carefully selected population that need to be addressed. In case of non-simultaneous surgery, in developed world, they have the option of deceased donor initiated non-simultaneous chain or altruistic donor initiated non-simultaneous chain. In India, altruistic donation is not possible. So probably deceased donor is possible if the state authorization committee approve. We have performed 10 patient and 10 donor non-simultaneous surgery after careful evaluation of patients, donor, their careful assessment of from psychological point to rule out any donor lineage. We performed this largest chain in India in January 2020. This was performed because of limited surgical capacity to carry out 10 simultaneous surgery of patient and 10 donors. Non-simultaneous kidney exchange cycles in resource-restricted country without non-directed donation, a prospective single-center cohort study. 17 non-simultaneous kidney exchange cycles in 67 pairs were performed in our institute. 0% donor lineage. 19 bridge donors were trusted to donate, and median wait time is only 2 days. So basically, we perform surgery on consecutive days rather than waiting for a long time. Merits of non-simultaneous surgery: more quality and number of transplant. Non-simultaneous chain can be longer, overcome surgical limitation. Single center non-simultaneous surgery eliminates disadvantage of multi-center program. Although many challenges remain in maximizing benefit that can be achieved with kidney exchange, we believe that this report of non-simultaneous kidney exchange illustrates potential of this approach. This is first report from India of safety efficacy of non-simultaneous kidney exchange with 0% donor lineage. Our experience will encourage other centers in India to undertake this approach after careful evaluation of patients and donors so that there should be no donor lineage. Liver versus kidney exchange. In India, only 15% of the transplants are from deceased donation. So we mainly depends on the living donation. Many times family has a living donor who is not fit for kidney donation, but they are fit for liver donation. The ethical issue in kidney versus liver exchange is that the mortality after living donor liver donation is higher as compared to the living kidney donation. So such kind of exchange can be carefully performed in the established center only, because India depends only on the living donor program. The morbidity and mortality while waiting on the deceased donor waiting list is very high, especially in the Indian scenario. And of course, patients pay from their pocket for deceased donor program and their maintenance dialysis. Our act also allow exchange of organ. It doesn't mention only exchange of kidney. It mention exchange of organs. Then living and deceased donor combination of two waiting lists. For example, this is a highly sensitized patient who is having living donor, but he is not able to get transplant from living donor kidney exchange program. So if one of the kidney is given from deceased donor to this highly sensitized patient if all immunological tests are compatible. And on the same day, living donor of this highly sensitized patient can give kidney to the topmost person on the deceased donor waiting list. So with the help of 2 kidney, we can get 3 transplant. So this can be done in a carefully selected setting, because anyway this patient, this pair is waiting since long time, he is not able to get living donor kidney exchange. So rather than rather than waiting on dialysis, he can get a standard criteria deceased donor kidney, and we should avoid marginal kidney. Then I will briefly discuss the ethical issues in the COVID era. Ethical issues in the COVID era: doing the right thing depends on location, resource, and disease burden. The COVID burden, healthcare resources, they are variable in different parts of the world. So any international guidelines or national guidelines, they may not be applicable to individual region or state. So we have to do justice to the patient as per available resources and our COVID burden. Fair allocation of the scarce medical resources in the time of COVID era. When the pandemic started in March 2020, there was an ethical dilemma about COVID-19 as a health priority versus transplantation. Since COVID was a pandemic, we are not prepared, especially during the first wave. So COVID was given priority over the elective transplant surgery. During the first wave, all elective transplant surgery were suspended and only selective and life-saving transplants were continued as per the checklist provided by NOTO, a government authority of India. In January 21, India started rolling out COVID vaccine. When vaccination started, there was an ethical issue, because when in the initial trial, transplanted patients were not included in the COVID vaccination trial. So there was no data about safety, efficacy, especially the concerns of rejections, immune injury. But NOTO transplant specific guidelines recommended vaccine for all transplant patients. The study is ongoing. Now more transplanted patients are included. We are getting more data, and transplant recipients were excluded from initial clinical trial determining efficacy of landmark COVID-19 vaccine. Increasing evidence that immunosuppressed transplant recipients have blunted antibody response to COVID-19 vaccine. So we should emphasize on COVID appropriate behavior, encourage additional research into alternative vaccination strategy to maximize protective response to immunocompromised patient, and concern effort to achieve global equity in vaccination as soon as possible. Because even as on today, the access to vaccine is very variable in different parts of world, especially in the low middle income country and low income country. So we should have proper access to the COVID vaccine to the required population. Recently, we published the update on COVID vaccine guidelines for transplant recipients. It suggests that the healthcare professionals should be vaccinated, who is the entire team of the healthcare worker working for the transplant patient. Then we recommend vaccination for all the transplant recipients. If there is a hesitancy, we should counsel them, but it is not mandatory. When it is not possible to complete the 2 doses, the first dose should be given before transplant, 2 weeks before the surgery, and second dose can be completed 4 to 12 weeks after surgery. So hopefully with the increasing vaccination supply, we would be able to take care of majority of the transplant population, and we should prevent the third wave. With this, I will like to acknowledge contribution, blessings from my mentor, Professor H.L. Trivedi, our director, Sir Dr. Vinit Mishra, and all our transplant team, HOD nephrology, Dr. Himanshu Patel, Dr. Pranjal Modi, Dr. Pankaj Shah. Thank you.
Hi, Vivek. It was a great presentation as usual. And so in Tamil Nadu, we have unique problems. So what happens is, like, in centers which have been donating diseased organs, so there's a lot of headwinds from people. One of the major concern people say is that it goes to people who have a lot of money in private hospitals and doesn't go to government hospitals. So as one of the key person in Noto, so do we have a plan to solve this issue with regard to equitable distribution of organ? Because I'm sure that's one of the key ethical dilemma we all face.
Yes, every state government is trying their best to increase access to the entire population. That's why it was started in a phased manner, starting from health worker, elderly population, then patients with comorbid conditions, then including all population after the over the age of 18 years, and now with the availability of the Zydus vaccine, although it is still not available on road, in our hospital, we will be able to do vaccination of the children above the age of 12 years.
Sorry, Elangovan, is that what you were asking? I think Vivek has misunderstood you.
No, so in centers in Tamil Nadu, what happens is the people always ask me about the distribution of organs, because many times the organs come from private hospitals and stay back and get distributed among the private hospital many times, and the government hospitals don't get an organ, because we know that organs are like the wealth of the country, and it doesn't go to people who need it, people who don't have nots, people who don't have money, it doesn't reach them. And that's one of the basic ethical problems we face, at least in disease donors. And I think poor people have equal right on the health resource of the country. So I think that is one of the issues. And this becomes a problem after 5 to 10 years, 20 years down the line in centers which have been doing disease donor transplants. So it's not a big problem in new centers, but it's a problem in existing centers.
So Vivek, before you answer, I think just to take it further, so your work on gender is of course very of very high quality, and globally this is a problem. But I think what Elangovan is referring to is the fact that if you really look at inequity and disparity, there are many such inequities that we see in India, and one of them is the fact that currently, at least for some organs seem to go only to the very well-to-do, because largely they go to private hospitals. In fact, I would suspect, Vivek, that if you dissect the recipient data from all across the country, you will see fault lines like caste, minorities, for that matter, transgenders, socioeconomic status. So the gender issue is actually hiding a power differential. Is that what Elangovan you're saying?
Yeah, something close to that.
Yeah, it is a practical issue, but we should have more systematic analysis of the data. These are the common concerns for the common man. They are present, but we should do a more systematic analysis so that we can overcome these concerns and we should have more transparency in our website. What is allocations, organ come from what sectors, and it goes to what sector. So if our website is more open, transparent, visible, accessible to the common man, then in that case we will be overcome this issue.
Sorry to interrupt, we are running short of time. May I request the chairpersons to kindly wind up the session?
Sure, Elangovan, go ahead.
Yes, sir. I think it's a brilliant talk, as usual, as Vivek, and I think he has enlightened all of us. And with your permission, sir, I think we can conclude this session.
Thank you, Dr. Nagaraj, Dr. Virat.
Thank you, speakers and chairpersons.